Hi, my name is Brad O'Connor and I'm the CEO of Cogstate. In this brief video, I want to share with you the progress that we have made throughout our business over the first half of the 2020 financial year and also talk to you about where we're heading over the coming months. Since July, Cogstate has been undergoing a transformation of our business. There are three significant aspects of that transformation that I want to discuss today. The first is that Cogstate's clinical trials business has delivered the best half-year sales result that we've ever recorded. The growth in sales contracts, which has extended into January and February, will drive a substantial increase in the clinical trials revenue as early as the second half of the 2020 financial year, and then on again into the 2021 financial year. The second aspect to discuss today is that our agreement with Japanese pharmaceutical company Eisai will see Cogstate technology launched to consumers in Japan in the coming months. The agreement with Eisai provides a low-cost structure for Cogstate to access a potentially lucrative healthcare market and presents a fundamental change to Cogstate's market opportunity. Finally, I want to talk about the financial results for the 6 months to 31 December 2019, but more importantly, focus on the improved financial results that we expect to deliver at 30 June 2020. Cogstate was founded 20 years ago with a vision that we could develop technology that would allow assessment of brain health for anywhere and for any purpose. Importantly, with an aging population and an increase in Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, Cogstate's goal was to make assessment of cognition as simple and as informative as taking your temperature. Cogstate has a proven ability to design and commercialize digital brain health assessments. Our tests have been used extensively and are highly validated, with unique ability to utilize the same tests in clinical trial and in the healthcare market. Cogstate's computerized batteries of rapid, reliable, simple and sensitive tasks measure the core cognitive domains of interest in research studies. The construct validity of each of our tasks of cognitive impairment in various indications, as well as the sensitivity of these tasks to change in cognition, has been demonstrated in the scientific literature. The tasks have also been shown to be valid for use in different cultures and language groups, with comparative and normative data available for both clinical samples and healthy controls. Studies teams wishing to measure all or a subset of these domains can choose the tasks that best suit their specific research questions. Each of the tasks have been utilized previously in drug trials and maintain excellent reliability across repeated testing and cross-sectional research designs. Cogstate's assessments have been reviewed and accepted by regulators the world over. But most importantly, Cogstate has a proven ability to establish deep strategic relationships and a trusted partner position. And that leads to the establishment of these solutions that so precisely meets the needs of our customers. The process and approaches that Cogstate undertake may be able to be replicated, but the relationships we have with our customers are not. Cogstate technologies provide rapid, reliable and highly sensitive computerized cognitive tests across a growing list of indications. In addition to our computerized assessments, in the clinical trials segment, Cogstate supports technology solutions that replace costly and error-prone paper assessments with real-time electronic data capture. The company's clinical trial solutions include quality assurance services for study endpoints that combine innovative operational approaches, advanced analytics, and scientific consulting. In the clinical trials division, Cogstate enters into sales contracts with both pharmaceutical and biotech companies for the provision of Cogstate technology and services for use in their clinical research trials. The goal of these trials is to determine the extent to which the investigational compound is impacting the cognition of the patient population. The contract value for each clinical trial will differ depending on the scope of the technology and services that are provided by Cogstate, as well as the complexity and the length of the trial. An increase in the total value of sales contracts executed will increase revenue backlog, and that will, over time, result in an increase to revenue recognised by Cogstate. Revenue from sales contract is recognised over the life of the contract. The length of a clinical trial can vary from a few months for a phase 1 study up to 4 or 5 years for a phase 3 study. Revenue is recognised based upon achievement of predetermined milestones, such as software release. During each period, revenue may be recognised from either contracts in the backlog at the beginning of the period, as well as sales contracts executed during the period. Usually there's a time lag between an increase or a decrease in the level of sales contracts executed and the corresponding change to recognise revenue. The value associated with executed sales contracts that has not been recognised at the end of any period is referred to as contracted future revenue. The revenue from these contracts will be recognised upon achievement of predetermined milestones throughout the clinical trial. The contracted future revenue figure provides Cogstate with great insight into future revenue performance. For the 6 months to 31st of December 2019, Cogstate executed $27 million worth of sales contracts. That growth in sales contracts for this period represents the accelerating demand for Cogstate's scientific solutions and our technologies. That growth was not altogether unexpected. Remembering at the beginning of the financial year, Cogstate provided guidance of 50% growth in clinical trial sales contracts above the $18 million of sales contracts executed during the 2019 financial year. That said, the December half year exceeded our initial expectations in a positive way, but the result clearly validates the expectation of a strong rebound from what was a very disappointing 2019 financial year. Cogstate has seen continued sales growth in a number of different indications, including various rare disease indications, as well as a rebound in investment by our customers in Alzheimer's disease, an area that was really negatively impacted throughout the 2019 financial year, following a series of clinical trial failures in Alzheimer's disease studies. That momentum has carried over into January and February of 2020. For the period from 1st of January to the 4th of March 2020, Cogstate executed another $9 million of clinical trial sales contracts, taking the total sales contracts executed financial year to date to $36 million. As at 31st of December 2019, Cogstate had over $37 million of contracted revenue to be recognised in future periods. Of that amount, over $10 million is expected to be recognised in this second half of the 2020 financial year. The increase in clinical trials revenue in the second half of this year will be a key driver in the improved financial performance of the company throughout that period, as well as into the 2021 financial year. The contracted revenue backlog provides great visibility for that increase in revenue. In the healthcare segment, Cogstate technology is provided to physicians and consumers to assess brain health and enable assessment of change over time at an individual level. In August of 2019, Cogstate announced our agreement with Japanese pharmaceutical company Eisai that provides for us a low-cost structure for Cogstate to access the potentially lucrative healthcare market and presents a fundamental change to Cogstate's market opportunity. The agreement provides Eisai with a 10-year license to market Cogstate technology in Japan. Under the agreement, Eisai will fund all sales and marketing activities in Japan and will also fund development activities that are undertaken by Cogstate to enhance the product for sale in the Japanese market. Cogstate and Eisai will split profits from the sale of Cogstate technology in Japan 50-50. Under a pilot program that was initiated almost a year ago now, Eisai and Cogstate have been undertaking user acceptance testing in Japan to determine the acceptability of the Cogstate technology in a consumer setting. As a result of those pilot projects, Cogstate has implemented language, feedback, and data reporting changes to the system that will be deployed ultimately by Eisai. The software development work associated with those changes has been funded by Eisai. The direct-to-consumer version of Cogstate technology that Eisai will launch in Japan will be branded as No-No, which directly translates to Know Your Brain. ASI wants consumers to understand that their brain health is important and they should know the condition of their brain. The No-No website will embed Cogstate technology, but will link to a Cogstate server to launch the Cogstate test, receive data, and provide data output. The consumer will be provided with immediate feedback in respect of their performance. The technology deployment has been designed with the consumer in mind. It provides interactive demonstrations to train the consumer how to undertake the cognitive assessment in their own home and without supervision. In a presentation to investors, analysts, and other stakeholders that was conducted on Friday, the 6th of March, Japanese time, ASI CEO Mr. Naito presented the ASI business plan for financial years 20 through to financial year 25. That presentation is available to view on the Investor Relations section of ASI's website. And on slides 14 and 15 of the presentation, Mr. Naito talks to the role of cognitive assessment, including ASI's plans to promote understanding of dementia and MCI through disease awareness activities within the media. Mr. Naito outlines ASI's plans to develop a brain performance app that will encourage disease prevention activities through management and visualization of health data that will be provided to consumers. Additionally, in the presentation, Mr. Naito talks about the role of No-No in the measurement of brain health performance, providing the first reference to the new branding for the Cogstate technology. Finally, the presentation discusses the integration of both No-No and Cognigram in the diagnostic pathway with various biomarkers across different dementia pathologies. Cogstate is also focused on the continued improvement and investment in our digital brain health assessments. But at the same time, we're focused on managing our cost base and delivering financial returns for our shareholders. Therefore, over recent months, we've leveraged partnerships to help fund investment in our technology. Eager to access smartphones for direct-to-consumer cognitive assessment in Japan, ASI will be funding the software engineering work required to enable smartphone capability for existing Cogstate assessments. The initial development work has already begun, and the scientific validation of the first versions of these tests is expected to begin in this calendar year. Under the terms of the agreement between ASI and Cogstate, ASI will fund the development work, and of course they'll have access to the technology in Japan. Cogstate will own all IP, and the output of this development will be available to Cogstate to commercialize outside of Japan. In the coming months, Cogstate will also begin work on a voice-based smartphone application of an existing, well-validated Cogstate test. We expect that voice-based smartphone application to have utility in both the clinical trials and the healthcare segments. To help accelerate the development of this exciting application, Cogstate has received funding from the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation through their Diagnostics Accelerator program that is backed by Gates Ventures, as well as philanthropic support from the Lauder, Schwab, and Dolby families. I want to turn now to the financial results for the half year ended 31st of December 2019. Through a series of transactions, Cogstate has raised $7.5 million US of new capital throughout the first half of the financial year, culminating in an entitlement offer that was well supported by Cogstate shareholders and underwritten by Cogstate director, Mr. David Dolby. As part of these transactions, ASI became a Cogstate shareholder, and they now currently own approximately 7% of Cogstate's total share capital. Looking at the financial results for the half year, we see that the loss for the period was predominantly influenced by lower revenue in the clinical trial segment. As a result of the forward visibility that the contracted revenue backlog provides us in respect of clinical trials revenue, that result was 100% in line with our expectations. The direct costs in the clinical trial segment were consistent with prior periods, allowing Cogstate to maintain a level of resources that are going to be necessary for us to execute on the growing contracted revenue base. This was always going to be a tough period for the clinical trials group. But as we look forward to the second half of the financial year, the high contracted revenue backlog will deliver an increase in revenue without any material increase in the amount of direct costs. On the other hand, the healthcare segment showed substantial improvement. In fact, a $2 million improvement compared to the previous corresponding period. The improvement related to both an increase in revenue as well as a decrease in costs. The revenue increase came via the royalty payment received from Eisai in respect of the Japanese license. The cost decrease related to the restructure announced in September 2018, as part of which Cogstate reduced headcount in the healthcare segment and pivoted strategy away from direct sales model and towards sales partnerships, such as the agreement that we've executed with Eisai. As we look forward, the level of sales opportunities in the clinical trials division remains very healthy, as demonstrated by the level of sales executed in January and February. This will result in an increase in clinical trials revenue in the second half of the 2020 financial year. Obviously, we're eagerly looking forward to the launch of our technology to consumers in Japan, which will occur in coming weeks, whilst we also wait with interest for news from Biogen and Eisai in respect of the FDA filing for aducanumab, a drug that has the potential to be the first disease-modifying drug approved for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. Overall, we expect to record a much improved financial performance for the second half of the financial year, and we continue to target EBIT profitability for the 2021 financial year. I want to thank you for your interest in this video, and I want to thank all Cogstate shareholders for your continued support. Thank you very much.